Hey everyone, I'm here with Rob Hilditch, president of Hardings Services. Rob, how you doing?
I am doing awesome. Thanks for taking the time for this.
Absolutely. Rob, can you fill us in just kind of what's the current circumstances? How's it impacting your business and kind of how are you guys faring with things?
Well, it's kind of funny. We were up in March over previous March sales, but I mean we're relating it to last March, which wasn't awesome for us because of the weather. So we were going into this feeling pretty good, and then come towards April here, we were down about about 2/3 of the way through the month. We were down about 70% on leads, and our sales cycle is about 3 to 4 weeks. So when you're down in April, you're down in May. So in this last week, we've had to start making some changes. But for the most part, we picked up in the last week of April because the weather changed. We picked up that. So we were actually only down about 48% in leads total for this last April compared to the April before. So it's not horrible, but it's not great by any means. And it's really hard these days. My narrative as far as what I was trying to project into the public is, I'm not going to go out and do a hard sell on customers and say, hey, you should be painting your house, you should be painting your house. We're getting into that a little bit, but in the last 6 weeks, it hasn't been about, get a sale, because that's not the way we operate. And that's not the way I want to operate. So what I chose to do was go, well, we have the time. How can we help? So if we're not out doing estimates, I'm not here running the business every day. My team's not out doing estimates and working on projects. It's how do we put those guys to work doing something that's meaningful for us? And it wasn't a directive that we're like, oh, this is going to help us. It had nothing to do with that. It's how do I stay busy? It's just I needed to do something. So we came up. Actually, I stole the idea from my friend Christian Toomey at Remax Land and Realty. He did a food drive. I just saw it on his Facebook, and I thought, what a great story that he's doing. So I emailed him and said, hey, can I steal your idea? And we went out and did about a month ago. We did our first food drive, and we filled the back of my pickup truck with food donated from myself, from my family, from the guys that we work with, and then customers that we found on our social media platforms. And then Joe Clausen at North Sea Fish and Farm and Joey's Restaurants, Streets Restaurants. They came to us and said, hey, we've got these turduckens. So they gave us 50 turduckens to give to the food bank and to the Veterans Food Bank as well. So it was a great initiative. We started it, and I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. And I never went out to the database. And then last week we decided to do it again, and we went out to our database and completely overwhelmed. We filled three full pickup trucks full of food. And I had spent a week, like the month of last week, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just driving from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, picking up food all across the city. The response we got from our clients, thank you so much, was just incredible. So we stuck on that narrative and continued to do that. And then that was the week before last. And then last week, Christian again had said to me, hey, we're going to go do this Fort McMurray thing, and we want to be able to fill a trailer for Fort McMurray. So last Monday, him and I and his friend Serge sat in the parking lot from 12:30 to 7 at the Southland Walmart. And again, thank you, Walmart Canada, for giving us the opportunity to stay there and giving us permission to do it. And we filled an entire trailer for Fort McMurray. And then Serge and Christian jumped in the truck and drove it up there and dropped it all off. So that was kind of just something to do, right? And if it helps, that's awesome. So I got to give Christian a lot of the credit because I'd keep jumping on his initiatives. And they're just great initiatives to do. We want to be able to help and stay busy. So, and then just later this week, we'll be announcing, by the time you probably air this, we're teaming up with the morning show on AMP 90.3, and we're going to be doing a Adopt a Family program. So Hardings has bought some radio time over a couple of weeks to team up with them, and we're still waiting, but we believe Walmart Canada is going to help us with this as well. But basically, we're going to be giving out gift cards to Walmart Canada And there's going to be a few families. I think they're coining it about 5 families right now, over the 2-week period, that are going to get these gift cards. So you'll be nominated on the radio station. You'll get these gift cards, and then the courtesy of obviously Hardings. And we're going to Walmart Canada to see if we can't given the radio station, amp it up a little bit. So I've gone to Streets restaurants. They're giving in another $50 GC to these families each. I've gone to Brown's, and Brown's is also going to give us another $50 each for each of these families. And so is Joey's Seafood Restaurants. So we've been able to amp it up with another $150 in GCs for these families to either, use for takeout now, or once things open up, be able to use that and ease the tensions on them financially that maybe have. And then the gift card dollar amount that we're doing, I just didn't feel it was enough. So we went out to Walmart Canada. The same girl that helped us get permission to use the Walmart Southland parking lot, an old friend of mine, Lisa Logan at Walmart, she's gone to their group and said, okay, well, what can we help them with? So we're still waiting on that. So we're super excited about that program as well, because these 5 families are going to be nominated by listeners of the station, are ones that are going to be, out of work, that haven't been able to feed their families properly. So it's kind of a cool initiative, and that one, I'm really proud to be a part of, and happy that AMP 90.3 thought of us because of what we were doing on the food drives. So it's kind of cool.
Well, you know what? So, I mean, Rob, that's very inspiring to hear, because I love what you guys are doing, and that's why I reached out to you. And I think that, you're not sitting around, feeling sorry for yourself. You guys are really taking that initiative. I mean, it doesn't even have anything to do with what you do as a business, but I mean, it's just giving back to that community. I mean, it will pay off in the long run, but good initiative.
If it does, that's awesome, but that wasn't the intent. The intent here really was, how do I stay relevant? And part of that, how do I keep my company relevant? It really had nothing to do at the start of, Hardings, right? I live my brand. I constantly live my brand all the time. For me, it's about not being authentic. Like, I don't try to be authentic. I just am authentic.
Yep.
I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'll tell you what I think all the time. And that's the way I run the business. And that's the way I want our team to run our businesses, So for us, it was just about really, what can we do to stay busy? And what we can do to help, right? We're fortunate enough that we run this company well, that, this is a blip and it's going to hurt, but it won't put me out of business. So we have that unique ability in this marketplace to go, okay, great. I have the time now. What can we do to help?
Well, you know what? And I think, and that's the message that I would encourage to other entrepreneurs that are out there. I mean, this is the time where we do need everybody to step up. So the guys that are doing well, let's support other businesses. Let's support the community. So good on you guys. What are you doing just from a personal standpoint within your company, and just to kind of keep yourself up? Like, what else are you doing? What would you recommend to other business leaders that are out there?
Quite honestly, I mean, this is they've all said that you can watch 16,000 webinars on it this week, and it's about getting your house in order, right? So what systems do you have in place? So, my team has worked a lot, like our licensees have worked a lot on what their systems are. And how do we, what's the betterment of that? And how do we, really just improve on everything that we're already doing from a systems perspective and an operations perspective? From a marketing perspective, the narrative has always just been, consistency, keeping it consistent. And then again, adding on to that authenticity of what we're doing as far as I think I've done more content during COVID than I have without COVID. And that's really kind of, again, amplified, how we operate that and how we change it. I was always the guy that was, okay, well, you have to be very cognitive of not to piss off your Instagram following and your LinkedIn following. I'm a pretty face, but nobody wants to see this many chins that many times, right? So I was always cognitive about trying to do that. But what I've found is that with the videos we've been doing on the food drive stuff, is they all get shared. They all see the authenticity of what we're doing, and it's not about sales, right?
Yep.
So I'd say just be yourself. That's the best advice I would give as far as how we're dealing with it. Just be yourself, and try and give back as much as you possibly can. Like, it's funny that you have this conversation with me today, because next Wednesday, I'm a board member of the Better Business Bureau, and I'm doing a webinar with some of my other friends on the board, and ask an expert on a webinar, and this particular thing,
Right.
about the authenticity, about creating, a tribe. And I don't think I've created a tribe in any way whatsoever. I'm just out there being who I
Yep.
am, trying to tell people what we do, right? So, and that just comes across as authentic because it's just me being me. It's not me trying to act out, what we want this to look like. It's just me being me because I give a crap about what happens in this city. I'm a Vancouver boy originally. I moved here when I was 14, moved back again when I was 19 for a few years, and then came back when I was, 22, 23 years old. I used to hate this city. I was like, I want to move back, I want to move back. And for me now, I love this province and I love this city more than I've ever loved Vancouver in the past. And, for me, the narrative's changed on that over the last, say, 10, 12 years, but specifically over the last couple of years. And when you see how resilient the city is, every time we're knocked down, we come back. And we will come back from this. And we'll come back from this as a group. And we'll come back from this as better businesses. And we'll come back from this as better people. And that's the narrative I'm trying to tell other people, is just, if you be yourself, you're gonna get through this.
Speaking of authenticity, I mean, we were just talking before we got on this call. I mean, you're doing a bunch of interviews with restaurant owners based on your history in that space. Can you tell us a bit about that and kind of why you're doing those calls?
Again, it was more about just being able to help. I'm in a unique position that with my social media platforms, especially with my LinkedIn, I have an oddly high number of followers and connections in that workspace, and they're very specifically, contained to our particular market, so being Calgary, and I wanted to be able to utilize that to help them. So I reached out to several different restaurateurs in this city that either I have worked with in the past or I'm friends with, and wanted to hear what their narrative was, what they're doing to work through this, what they're doing to make their customers safe when they're doing their pickup and deliveries and all that type of operation. And wanted to be able to get that out in front of the public to show people, hey, don't be fearful of going to a restaurant and doing takeout or pickup or even drive-through. And on top of that, hey, keep in mind, when you're doing pickup, you're helping these restaurants 10 times more than you think they are, because they're not having to pay these outrageous third-party delivery fees, right? A lot of these guys right now are having to do free delivery to try and entice these customers to feel safe enough to buy from them. But on top of that, they're no longer taking that fee that they would do for Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats or DoorDash. So when you go to pick up, it helps them significantly, because they're not doing that now as a trying to entice customers. So I just wanted to get their stories out. So we did a series of originally 5, and now we have a couple more coming up again, where we just tell the stories of how these restaurants operate, how this is affecting them. Personally, business-wise, everything, and just get their story out, so that, it's killing me to see my friends' restaurants die or close, or, it's just killing me to see that. And there's lots of other businesses in the same situation, but I think what people don't understand is that, and I did one interview with Rob Greco from Carmine's Pizzeria where he just hit it on the head. The family attitude that restaurants develops, I think, is far different than you ever see in any other business. Like I've made lots of great friends. I have great people that I work with here. And I call my group that I work with here family too. And that's a lot of how my attitude from the restaurant industry came. But at the same time, when you're in a restaurant, how quickly you connect over food is just awe-inspiring. So, I think hospitality is the third largest industry, I think, employment or employer in the country, if I remember my stats correctly. But when you break it down and look at all of the ancillary items and companies that support restaurants, like the GFS of the world, Cisco Food Service, all these other small suppliers, the North Sea Fish and Farms, things like that. When you start adding all those numbers up, I believe that industry is by far the biggest employer in Canada. And we talk about oil and gas and everything else, but it's the soul of I can't remember the flipping term, but it's the fabric of our being.
No, you know what, and I think that's the thing, because I mean, obviously here in Alberta, I mean, I keep saying we've been kicked in the teeth a couple of times over the past 5-6 years, and I think that it is supporting local, and it is helping those restaurants and the barber shops and everybody else along with that. And I mean, so to share those messages, I think is very valuable, because I don't think people realize things like picking up versus getting the delivery. I mean,
yeah,
you just don't understand that. So
yeah, and I mean, nobody understands the story unless you tell it, right?
Absolutely.
So that's all I want to do was tell their stories. That's all I continue to want to do is tell their stories, and just be able to use my network to hopefully benefit them. It's not just about me or Hardings or any of that. It's about, how do we support each other? How do we drive it forward? And just, that's always been me, as far as being able to do that. And my previous employer amplified that in me a lot more. It comes from my dad originally, but certainly and my family. But certainly in the last 16 years before I came to Hardings, the group that I worked with at Joey's group, certainly pushed that narrative in my mind. And I have to give them a lot of credit, Joe Clausen in particular, a lot of credit, because, I was good at it and he taught me how to perfect it and just be me and just go help, period.
Yeah, no, and I have a work ethic that just, you can't stop. I mean, I think that's the big thing, right? We just have to keep going, because it will pass. We don't know what the future holds, but we just can't stop. So
Albertans are tenacious.
That's for sure. Rob, any final words of advice you'd have for other business leaders that are out there?
Go help. Do whatever it takes. Go help. Pull up your boots and just get out there. Pull up your socks, put your boots on, and just, find what matters to you, and go do it. I'm finding now that, when I was at the Joey's group, I was busy. I was basically doing 3 full-time jobs, and I didn't have time to do that. I would get involved in initiatives that we were involved in already, but never found my own. And now with Hardings, I'm just finding my own voice with what it means something to me. And so, on a side note or a tangent from that, like, I get involved in the Better Business Bureau because I think that the things that they do for businesses are huge. People think it's a complaint process, and there's just so much more to that. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, hey, if you're, a business owner, get involved with your BBB, because there's so many things that they can do that'll help your business and drive your business. So accreditation is huge for you. On top of that, I'm involved as a founder on a charity called Business for Calgary Kids, which is a golf tournament. And I recently this year became involved in that. And I got involved because they were going to children's charities, 7 each year, and they drill it down. And that was an initiative that Joe Clausen was involved in that, again, I got involved in because of him. But I specifically got involved because they helped the distress center. And for many, many years, I have suffered from depression. I could go on about that for years. And one of the things that helps me surpass that, obviously exercise and getting out and just enjoying my family, blah, 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 but is getting involved in initiatives that help kids that had the same problems as me, that didn't have, that when I didn't have help, right? So I go back and say, okay, great. How do I get involved? Just find the things that you're passionate about and get involved. And if you're passionate about your business, then be your business. Be the face of your business and go out and do it. If it's a charity event, go out and do it. And your network may be 50 people, but I can tell you that when you go out and do the things that you're passionate about and tell people what you're passionate about, then other people become passionate about it as well. And that could be in your business or in the charity event or whatever it is that you're doing. tell people what you're doing. You know, tell it, live it, be it, and the rest will follow.